Welcome to This is Digital, a podcast brought to you by West Monroe. Join us as we talk to leading experts about bringing the digital mindset to your organization.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to This is Digital, a podcast where we break down the latest digital trends and share ideas from experts about how to be more digital. At West Monroe, we believe that a clear vision and a digital mindset are critical for a company to survive, thrive, and win, not just compete. For today's episode, we're recapping the best digital advice we've received from our guests on This is Digital. We'll take a look back at some of our conversations from Season 1 and Season 2 around what it means to be digital, how companies can implement a digital mindset, and digital best practices. I continue to be inspired by each of our guests, and I'm delighted to relive these amazing moments with you today. With that being said, let's kick it off with Mark King, CEO of Taco Bell, who spoke with us about making the case for going digital. During the episode, Mark talked about how Taco Bell embarked on a journey with a desire to move from a traditional brick-and-mortar restaurant chain to becoming a digitally led organization. I asked Mark how you make the case for change when you're already a successful business. Here's what he had to say.
The first thing that we needed to do was change our mindset. And the mindset was midterm, not short term, but midterm. If we didn't become a digitally led consumer brand, we would probably lose. And that took some time. But now we have enough data points that I think everybody believes that. So that was the first thing, is we had to believe that this was the future of Taco Bell. Then secondly, we have to, and this is really the art, how do you pace and sequence the transition from one model to another? So literally in 24 months, we've gone from 0% of our business to 25% to be digital. And all the indicators when we go more digital, it's more profitable, the check is bigger, the consumer likes it more, it's easier. So now we have a goal that we want to have 50% of our business be digital. And just last week, somebody said, I think we're wrong. I think we have to be 100% digital. So that was, and that's not me pushing it. That's people just saying, oh my gosh, 50%, what's 50%? That means the other 50% is not really, so we either got to go or not go. So the goal now, the stated goal or ambition, let's say ambition, is that 100% of our business is digital. And it doesn't mean we don't use our asset. It's just we use the store in a different way. So it's an exciting time, but I would say we had to get started. But then I think the marketers and the employee base are leading us there rather than forcing them to go there.
Mark made a great point that sometimes you have to break out of your industry's norms in order to successfully evolve. Thanks to Mark and his innovative team, Taco Bell has a successful digital operating model that appeals to its customer base. Another guest with great insights on digital transformation was Tracy Sala, SVP of Product and Health Experience at Highmark Health. Tracy explains how Highmark is creating a health ecosystem that works better for everyone.
It really starts with our problem statement, and it's our realization, and I think the world's realization, that healthcare is just fundamentally broken. It is, the costs are rising at an unsustainable pace. Despite that, people are not getting healthier. And if you look at the two most important people in the healthcare equation, it's people trying to care for their health and the clinicians, the providers that are trying to help them. Both are extremely disenfranchised by the system. So, we recognized in our strategy that to transform health, that you really had to put the person and their clinician at the center of the model, and then everything else would be built around that, right? Into an ecosystem that kind of preserves and enhances that relationship. So the origin of my Highmark is really around how do we take those disconnected point solutions and create a single interface for health where a person can go and it's something that they can access all of their health transactional needs as well as their health solution needs. So, that was our goal with my Highmark, is to create something that people lean into and use and benefit from because they want to, not because they have to.
This was such an inspiring conversation with Tracy, and I can't wait to see the transformation their team brings to the healthcare industry. As we continued to have insightful conversations with our guests, a topic that came up often was a shift in mindsets. More specifically, the importance of making a shift from a project mindset to a product mindset. We sat down with Courtney Hemphill, West Monroe's partner and head of product, engineering, and design, who shared her thoughts on the importance of the product mindset and how it can be implemented to become more adaptable and responsive to market changes.
What we've recognized is over time, we actually have to meet the market in the way in which it's changing and at the pace that it's changing. And so there's a need at that level to become more adaptable. And so the product mindset is taking teams and saying, instead of us acting as if we know exactly what's going to happen for the next 12 months, creating a backlog of features and functionality for those 12 months, let's break down the barriers. Let's give you all the information you need. Let's give you access to the individuals and the expertise and the customers so that you can constantly move that backlog to the place of best opportunity. And it's really also giving the ownership of the outcomes to the team. So instead of just, here's the outcomes that we need, you go work against this very predefined, set of outcomes, and that's really the IT cost center. Let's look at outcomes, right? What might it look like if we wanted to increase revenue by 2% with this particular cohort of customers? Go solve for that, right? You're going to need to do some degree of exploration. You're going to need to have a rigorous backlog of tests that you might need to spike on and do some design sprints, right? How might we increase revenue? It might be very difficult for us to solve for that without trying some things out. And so that adaptable nature of a product team and that product mindset gets you to a place where you can come up with better ideas, better innovation, and then you can learn from that, right? You can test out things in small incremental ways, and then you can completely change your plan. It doesn't need to be predictable. In fact, it needs to be adaptable. So that's really the core of what I see to be the project to product mindset. And I think what's interesting is that the 10 most valuable companies right now, if you just look at kind of like market cap and those that were founded maybe in the last 30 years, all of them treat software engineering as a profit center, not as a cost center.
I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation was that becoming more digital is truly a team effort from the C-suite down to all employees. Continuing the conversation around workforce, economist Rob Westcott shared his view on how technology will play a crucial role in determining the best approach for each business, as it won't be a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather a careful assessment of tasks, communication, and digital technology requirements.
I think businesses are going to start looking at workforce and their configuration workers. I think many of them are going to say, it worked great. Remote work worked great for a certain percentage of our workers, depending on the nature of the work. But I think some other businesses may say it wasn't working as well as we thought. And we kind of went along with it because, the workforce was kind of demanding these changes. But for us, we want a certain percentage of workers for certain tasks to be back in the office. The other thing is, I think another big adjustment is workers themselves are reassessing some of their life choices. And I think a lot of workers who may be working remote, especially maybe some younger workers, may be saying, I'm not getting the mentoring I needed, I'm not getting the training I needed. Or maybe they're saying, I'm not getting the promotions I was expecting. I'm not getting in the mix with the managers as much as I thought. It won't be one size fits all. Everyone works remote. I think it's going to be really sorting through what are the tasks of the business and can they be well done from remote work, and on what basis, what communication, and what digital technology do you need.
Another conversation that revolved around the workforce was with Tiffany Bova, Global Growth Evangelist at Salesforce. Tiffany stressed the importance of companies investing in their employees' career development so they can effectively use the tools required for their job.
People want to be empowered and enabled to do their job for what they were hired to do. And unfortunately, career development, investment in shoring up outdated technology or outdated processes and systems takes a back seat to similar to what we were just talking about. Brands will, executives have shown through the research that they will always default to making sure that the customer experience is first and foremost, and sometimes at the expense of that. So employees were saying, listen, I want the systems and tools to do my job. The average enterprise has 900 or so applications, and only 29% of those are integrated. So if those applications aren't integrated, the burden falls on the employee. If you have a lack of career development or, actually investing in the long-term career progression of your people, they're going to leave to go get that experience or training somewhere else. The CFO's like, look, what if we invest in all these people from a career career perspective and they leave, we've just wasted our money. But really the answer should be, if we don't invest in them and they stay, they're not capable of using all the systems and tools, and they're not able to maybe do things that we need them to do now that we've changed our business models. So those kinds of employee investments are critical. But when people are pulling back on spend and really nervous about what's happening in the economy, sometimes the very first things to go are those things that are perceived as perks for employees that aren't really perks, right? It should be part of the overall support that you give to your employees, regardless of what's happening externally in the market.
We certainly can't talk about digital transformation without having a conversation around AI. Allie K. Miller, a top artificial intelligence leader, advisor, and investor, was my guest for episode 15, one of our most popular episodes yet. I asked Allie what new job titles or new roles she thinks will emerge with AI.
One is that every single job will be impacted by AI. So there will be doctors that use AI, lawyers that use AI, teachers that use AI. Every single role will be impacted. The second is that I think some roles will be partially displaced or entirely displaced by AI. And the third is growth. Very obvious growth is in machine learning jobs like machine learning engineer or research scientist or head of AI. And then there's this other component, which is what you're asking about, which is net new jobs that we do not yet know about. And I'll throw out a few here, but I would love your reaction. I would love to hear if you have other ideas too, because I think everyone has a voice here. But there's a rise of AI avatars and the ability for any company to have like an AI personality for their brand. And so I could see a role of like AI brand manager. I also think that the future of AI is personalized, predictive, and proactive. We will be taking actions before something happens. We're already doing that now with predictive maintenance, but I do think that that will grow. And so I could see a role of like head of prediction or head of decision making. There are some people right now that hold a role, head of decision science. I could see, dozens of AI roles that all are thinking about what does it mean to build, what does it mean to act.
Tim Simmons, Senior Vice President and Chief Product Officer at Sam's Club, spoke more on how his team is using AI to increase efficiency and create positive experiences for both members and associates.
We are leveraging it in a big way. So AI, machine learning, computer vision, even generative AI, as we think about the experience we're creating for both members and associates, it's emerging as, I think, a huge differentiator for us in how we deliver. Let's go back to that inventory example, where the system will detect thousands of anomalies in inventory to come up with hey, what's the one or two or three things that I should send this associate to go work on right now? It's a different way of thinking. We used to be routine-based. We even had this thing we called the routine wheel in the club, and it was like you start here, and then you go to here, and then you go to here. And it was all routine. But if you ask the question, well, are you sure those are the most valuable things to be doing right now? Nobody could answer that question. And then we've got machine learning on top of it where it's constantly learning and optimizing. And now we can say to associates, we can tell you with a really high degree of confidence that these are the 5 things you should go investigate and go work on. And when we started out, we had a lot of false positives. About half the time, we'd send associate on something and we'd say, this is high priority, and there was really nothing wrong. So that's where the machine learning comes in top. It's learning and self-correcting as we go. And our false positives are down now in single digit.
I love hearing about the different ways people are leveraging AI to evolve their businesses. As our understanding of generative AI deepens, our conversations around new use cases, governance, and AI roadmaps will become more sophisticated and impactful. Another industry trend we're seeing is companies shifting left. No, that's not a political movement, it's a technical one. Guest host Eric Brown sat down with West Monroe's own Sean McHale, Rick Sabatino, and Dana Toomey to discuss what shift left really means.
I think it's twofold. I think part of it is around the software development practices. It focuses more on collaborative decision making. Customer satisfaction is huge. I think you alluded to that the intro, and development in much shorter sprints. Traditionally we see a lot of companies who focus more on like a waterfall method or development, long iterations of development, and then testing and quality control, then launch, and then bug fixes, debugging, updates, all that. The more digital companies, the ones who have shifted left or who are born more in the in the digital space, they combine that development, testing, and quality control all into that beginning stage. And that helps so many things. And I see so many companies which have not adequately looked at things like automated testing or security enhancements from the start. And those are the types of things which will slow them down significantly as they move forward post-launch.
Shift left has to be embodied in your development practices, your risk management practices, but it really starts as a design principle for the whole organization. It's an element of culture. And how do I think about things differently? So working with an organization right now, they are looking to shift left. And so we're working with them to rethink the way their technology organization operates. And they're very much off to the right. Most of their workforce today is fixing user issues, resetting passwords, routine operational stuff. So they have no capacity to do the strategic work that the business partners in their organization are asking for. And they're still running 50% more operating cost on technology than they should be by benchmarks. And so how do they design, how do they change the mindsets of their people to be thinking about the strategic point of view and not worrying so much about password resets? And that requires infrastructure changes. It requires organizational design changes. It may, and in this case it does, right, requires shifting some of the work to a managed services provider who excels at that work instead of trying to build all of the operational talent in-house, and then redesigning the internal IT organization to be strategically focused and changing all of the roles in there.
The institutions that we work with in banking, as well as all the other verticals that we have so much brain power in so many different areas. And a lot of times the miss is not getting that collective brain power at the table early. And what we see happening is if risk isn't considered early, if compliance isn't considered early, to make sure that you've got the right standards or regulations or frameworks in place, it creates rework on the back end. So you can compress the time frame, you can, do all the great testing and evidencing and all of those things. And if the risk questions weren't asked up front, it's going to eat into your ROI, because you're then going to have to go back, readdress potential concerns, and kind of go through that loop again. And so for us, as we introduce this kind of idea of shift left, especially with kind of my singular focus on risk sometimes, it's really about the collaboration, having the right people at the table, and introducing those frameworks as early as we possibly can.
Something that stood out to me is how collaboration in the early phases can really impact the whole timeline for a project. And that seems to be the key to this shift. In episode 22, West Monroe's Chief Commercial Officer, Casey Foss, talked about 5 trends shaping the future of tech. As we navigate through times of constant change in business, the economy, and technology, Casey emphasized the need for companies to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. She also shared this insight on how businesses can continue to grow and stay relevant.
What I find most interesting right now is that industries can no longer stay in their lane. Innovation and companies have to span across industries, and they have to think about their business in totality. You must look past your current competitor set and industry peers and look towards the best of the best, right? What are other industries doing? Because customers no longer differentiate by industry. The businesses also cannot.
We've had fantastic conversations on This is Digital, covering so many important topics that businesses are facing today. Our hope is that you've taken what you've learned today and throughout seasons 1 and 2 and can begin implementing the concept of being digital within your company. Thank you all for your support and for taking time to listen. As always, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn and reach out with any questions or comments about the show. Ideas for topics and speakers for season 3? I'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for listening to This is Digital. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow or subscribe on your preferred podcast app. And don't forget to leave us a review. For more information on This is Digital, visit westmonroe.com/thisisdigital.